This video is going to cover section 4.2 if you go to UMA, 3.6 if you go to MA. Polynomial division is what we're talking about. So one way to divide is synthetic division. In order to do this, it just takes the equation, puts it in a chart, and you do some multiplying and adding, and you get there. What you want to do is you start by making a big L, and then you put the coefficients from the first problem in the chart. So the cubed coefficient, notice there's no x squared. We're missing that quadratic term, so I'm going to put a 0 in for it. On this one, we go 3, 2, 1, 0. That's fine. This one skips 2, so you put a 0 whenever you skip. Then I'm going to do -2 because of this negative sign, and then I do 5. Then you take the opposite of that number. So since it's -3, I put +3 out here. So if I were to set this one up, make my L, put my coefficients, 5, -6, -28, 8, and then -2 out here. Your first step is to bring down that first number. Then you multiply the number on the outside times what's at the bottom. So 3 times 3 is 9. Then you add 0 plus 9. 3 times 9 is 27. And then I add 3 times 25 is 75. And then I add. So if I do the second one, -2 times 5 is -10. Add, I get -16. -2 times -16 is 32. I add and get 4. -2 times 4 is -8. I add and get 0. To write your solution, you take the original degree and subtract 1 and plug it in, counting down between the numbers. So since this was x cubed, I'm going to put x squared, x, remainder, and then write that out. So that would be 3x squared plus 9x plus 25, remainder 80. That would be the solution to that division problem. This one started as x cubed, so I go x squared, x, remainder, and I get 5x squared minus 16x plus 4, and there is no remainder on this one because it's 0. So that's how you do synthetic division. You can use synthetic division to find zeros. If they say, is 2 a 0, you do the division. If there's no remainder, it's a 0. So 1, -4, 9, -10. Because this is already the number, I use exactly what it is. Slide down, multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, add. There is no remainder, so yes, it's a 0. Okay, now let's do this one. So A is 3/2, then we have -1, then we have 3/2. This one's missing the constant term, so I put 0 at the end. They give us -2, so I slide down. 3/2 times -2 is -3. Add those, we get -4. -2 times -4 is +8. Add those, 8 is the same as 16 over 2, so 3 plus 16 is 19 over 2. Multiply that times -2, I get -19. 0 plus -19 is -19. This one has a remainder, so no, it's not a 0. That's how you can use synthetic division. If it asks you if a binomial is a factor, that's, again, just asking you to divide. So we put our coefficients. We put the opposite when we have the whole binomial. And then we slide down, multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, add. Because our remainder is 0, yes, it's a factor. If I do this one, same thing. I put 4. There's no cubic, so I put a 0. There's my quadratic, linear, constant, opposite of what's inside, slide the 2, multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, add. We have a remainder, so no, it's not a factor. The last thing I'm going to show you with synthetic division is show that multiple things are zeros. So you just do synthetic division for all of them. So we'll start with -2. So we have 2, 5, -1, -6. Oops. Then we put -2 out here. Slide that down. Multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, add. So that one got 0. So we've shown that one's a 0. And we just keep going. So let's use 1. I'm just going to use that so we have the least amount of work with the fraction. You can do it whatever order you want. Slide that down. Multiply, add, multiply, add. That's 0. So we've proven that one. And now we do -3/2. So bring that down. 2 times -3/2 is -3. Add those together and we get 0. So because each of those are 0, that shows those are all zeros or x-intercepts. Graph on a calculator. Another way to show it's a 0 is to put that in our y equals menu. So 2x cubed plus 5x squared minus x minus 6. Then you also do our other one as 0. And if you hit graph, let's see, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Then if I were to find those zeros, second trace 0, if we go to the left and right of this one, we get, I don't know what I did. Hold on. 2x cubed plus 5x squared minus x minus 6. Second trace 0, left, right. So this one tells us -1.84. I don't know why that's being weird because they should all be the same. It should be -2, 1, and -1.5. So let's try this one more time. Second trace 0, left, here, let me do this one. Left bound, right bound. I don't know what it's doing. Oh, I know what it's doing. Don't put the 0 in there. That's what I did. Don't put the 0. Just put the equation. And then you do second trace 0, left bound, right bound, -2. Then I do it again, left bound, right bound, -1.5. Then I do it again, left bound, right bound, and I get 1. So they show up when you do the right thing. If I want to know when p of x equals 0, that means the x-intercepts. So if I had left that in here, I would want to do the intersect because it was trying that whole line is 0 is what was happening. All right, the other way to divide is long division. So if you have a binomial with linear terms that are bigger than 1, if you have something that's not linear, you need to do long division. So to do this, you put whatever is first or on top of the fraction in a big division bar. And then you put the bottom one on the outside. So I would do the same thing over here. I put the first one, 4x squared. And then I put the second one on the outside. And same thing as before, if there's a term missing, you want to put 0. It just makes your life easier later. So since there's no linear term here, I put 0. Now we ask ourselves, what do I multiply 2x by to get 6x squared? Well, 2 times 3 is 6, and x times x is x squared. So I need that. Now I'm going to distribute. 3x times 2x is 6x squared. 3x times 3 is 9x. Now the next step in division is subtracting. So 6x squared minus 6x squared is 0. And 5x minus 9x is negative 4x. Bring down the next term. Now I repeat, what do I have to multiply 2x by to get negative 4x? Well, 2 times negative 2 gives us the negative 4, and we already have the x, so we don't need that. So now I distribute. Negative 2 times 2x is negative 4x. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. And now I'm going to subtract. Negative 4x minus 4x is 0. Negative 1 minus 6 is 5. So we would have remainder 5. There's our answer. Do another one with you over here. What do I multiply x by to get 5x cubed? Well, I need a 5. I need another x. So now I distribute. 5x times x squared is 5x cubed. 5x times 0x is 0x squared. And 5x times 1 is 5x. So now I subtract. 5x cubed minus 5x cubed is 0. Negative 4x squared minus 0x squared is negative 4x squared. And 7x minus 5x is 2x. Bring down the next term. Start over. What do I multiply x by to get negative 4x squared? Well, I need a negative 4. So negative 4 times x squared is negative 4x squared. Negative 4 times 0 is 0. And negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. Then I go in here and I subtract. 4x squared minus 4x squared is 0. 2x minus 0x is 2x. And negative 4 minus negative 2 minus negative 4 is positive 2. Now, x squared has more x's than 2x, so that's our remainder. You can have a binomial as a remainder. So the answer to this would be 5x minus 4, remainder, 2x plus 2. So here's one more. Try solving it. Pause the video. Check yourself out. So I put the first one inside. Put the second one outside. And then I start dividing. What do I multiply 2 by? 2x squared to get x over 3. Well, to get to 1, I have to multiply by 1/2. And then we need another x because we had 2. So then we multiply. 1/2 x times 2x squared is going to be x cubed. 1/2 x times x is 1/2 x squared. 1/2 times x is 1/2 x. One half x times 1, sorry, is negative 1/2 x. There we go. Had a brain fart. Now we're going to subtract. So x cubed minus x cubed is 0. 5 halves minus 1/2 is 4 halves, which is the same as 2. And then 1 minus negative 1/2 is 1.5. And then we bring down the 2. What do I multiply 2x squared by to get 2x squared? 1. So 1 times 2x squared. 1 times x, 1 times negative 1. Now I subtract. 2x squared minus 2x squared is 0. 1.5x minus x is 1/2 x. And 2 minus negative 1 is 3. So that's our remainder. So our solution is 1/2 x plus 1. Remainder, 1/2 x plus 3. So it's okay to have fractions. It's okay to have x's. It's a really weird concept, but it is overall okay to have. That is 3, 6, or 4, 2. Let me know if you have any questions.